President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, welcomed Maikelys Espinoza and her family at the Miraflores Palace after the return home of the toddler previously kidnapped by the U.S. government. In Turkey, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has altered the scheduled agenda for negotiations with the Russian delegation. And May 15th marks Nakba Day for Palestinians, a day to commemorate the mass dispossession and forced displacement during the creation of Israel in 1948. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We now begin with the information. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro succeeded in rescuing the girl Maikelys Espinoza that was kidnapped by the United States. This Wednesday, the 22nd flight of humanitarian plan returned to the homeland arrived at the international airport of Maiquetía in La Guaira state. Venezuelan authorities welcomed 226 migrants, among them 7 children and 37 women. The first combatant, Cilia Flores, together with the Minister of the Interior, Justice and Peace, Diosdado Cabello, received the 2-year-old girl, separated from her mother by the U.S. government. For her part, Cabello also reaffirmed that thanks to the struggle and wisdom of President Nicolás Maduro, this great victory was achieved.
It has been a battle of wits with Nicolás Maduro and the team appointed by Jorge Rodríguez. It is a battle that we have won every day, and today we can celebrate victory as Maikelys returns to our homeland.
During the reception of a new group of Venezuelan migrants, Diosdado Cabello also criticized the United States for failing to comply with the list of Venezuelan nationals repatriated to their country.
A list has been sent from the United States in advance. It contains the names of 226 Venezuelans, including 7 children and 37 women. I am saying this because we have been constantly receiving lists that do not correspond with the passengers or the quantities or names of those arriving in Venezuela.
We go now to Bolivia, where citizens held a vigil in support of President Luis Arce after he announced the decline of his candidacy for the August 2025 presidential elections. The massive rally took place in Murillo Square, where various organizations gathered waving flags and chanting slogans calling for unity and national democracy. President Luis Arce, accompanied by his government cabinet, greeted the social organizations present at the government palace. The Bolivian president also thanked all those present for the immense show of support and recalled that unity is the key to continuing building the country.
President Luis Arce announced his declination to run for re-election on Tuesday night. Today, I announced to the Bolivian people with absolute firmness my decision to decline my candidacy for presidential re-election in the elections of next August. I do so with the clearest conviction that I will not be a factor of division of the popular vote. He called on the other leaders of the left who were part of the movement to socialism to facilitate a single formula that has certain options to win the elections. Let us close ranks for the candidate who has the greatest possibilities of defeating the plunderers of Bolivia. From here I launch a challenge to former President Evo Morales not to insist on being a candidate for the presidency. First, because constitutionally he cannot be, and second, because the dispersion and fragmentation of the vote would only favor the right wing. But I also call on Comrade Andrónico Rodríguez, who in his proclamation in Oruro spoke of the necessary unity. Surprise was expressed in the social organizations and militants of the movement for socialism that support him. Dozens of his followers set up a vigil in the Murillo Square waiting for the situation of this political group to be clarified.
Nos sentimos muy indignados.
We feel very indignant, since we have seen last night that our president, our candidate elected by the entire eastern bloc of the Department of Santa Cruz, declines.
El departamento de Santa Cruz reclina.
Esperamos que vuelva a reflexionar.
We hope that he will reflect again and come out ahead, and we will always be here as people, as women from Potosí, to encourage him.
Vamos a darle ese aliento.
Tiene que instalarse la sesión del pacto.
The meeting of the Unity Pact must be set up and everything must be clarified. The more time that passes, the more it hurts us. It increases the uncertainty that affects the militants.
Incertidumbre que afecta a la militancia.
El llamado Pacto de Unidad que aglutina a sectores.
The so-called Pact of Unity that brings together social sectors that support the government will meet this Thursday in La Paz to decide on the future of this political force in view of the August elections.
Nos ha tomado en sorpresa, pero
Yesterday was something that took us by surprise. We have to take a position. We had a meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning with the brother president, but we suspended because of what he said. We cannot meet with a person who is not within the list of three that he himself has decided. If he has the organic affection for the social organizations, he will have to assume all decisions we make.
¿no? Que él mismo ha decidido, ¿no?
El expresidente Evo Morales respondió a la convocatoria de Arce.
Former President Evo Morales responded to Arce's call that only the people can decide that he will not participate as candidate. Andrónico Rodriguez, President of the Senate, said, also through social networks, that unity is possible at the grassroots levels and not at the level of the leadership. Meanwhile, the Constitutional Court ruled that no one can be elected more than twice in the same position, which may affect the pretensions of former President Evo.
Freddy Morales, teleSUR, Bolivia.
Now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. The 22nd Ibero-American Judicial Summit is being held in Dominican Republic with the objective of strengthening judicial systems in the region and advancing towards a justice system at the service of the people. The event seeks to consolidate a more efficient and transparent justice system by eliminating barriers and guaranteeing universal access to a dignified social and judicial system, addressing issues such as the fight against corruption, the protection of human rights, and the use of technology to streamline judicial processes. The meeting brings together magistrate judges and legal experts from the 23 member countries, such as Spain, Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, and Cuba. It should be noted that on Thursday, the technological fair Justice Service for the Future will be inaugurated. The summit will last until May 16th.
En un mundo marcado por transformaciones vertiginosas.
Ladies and gentlemen, in a world marked by vertiginous transformations and unprecedented global challenges, the right to justice must be not only proclaimed, but also guaranteed. The right to justice must be not only proclaimed, but guaranteed with efficiency, accessibility, and trust. That is why the slogan that summons us on this occasion is not a simple slogan. It is a declaration of principles, justice up to date. It implies a justice that arrives on time, that does not postpone rights, nor delays hope, and that in its essence is directed as protector of human dignity. The three thematic pillars of this edition, timely, inclusive, and reliable justice, are a reflection of a vision that humanizes the judicial system, modernizes it, and projects it into the future.
And the President of the Dominican Republic, Luis Abinader, also held a meeting with former Dominican Presidents Hipólito Mejía, Leonel Fernández, and Danilo Medina to discuss the anti-immigrant policies implemented by his government against Haitian migrants. The main objective of the meeting is framed in the application of a migratory law containing detention and deportation operations of Haitian migration. After the meeting, the former Dominican leaders made derogatory statements about the Haitian migrant population, attributing responsibility to them for the security situation in the country. It should be noted that last October, the Dominican government implemented a massive program of deportations, border controls, and deployment of thousands of troops accompanied by decisions such as expatriating Haitians who go to public health centers without documentation. Colombian President Gustavo Petro accused the Senate of committing a fraud by rejecting the popular consultation with which he sought to promote the labor reform. With 49 votes against and 47 in favor, the Senate plenary rejected the initiative of Petro's government. In response, the Colombian president proposed the mobilization of workers, unions, peasants, community action boards, youth committees, and indigenous movements. The consultation addressed issues such as the reduction of the 8-hour working day, leave for health reasons, decent wages for farmers, and the end of outsourcing, among others.
We did not expect such a horrific event as the one that took place in the Senate of the Republic. They were not even able to win the referendum through the votes of honest senators. They had to cheat.
Tuvieron que hacer trampa. Le solicito al Cabildo Abierto de Bogotá.
I ask Bogota's Open Town Council, there at the City Council or in the square if they don't let them in, to bring together organizations nationwide.
Las organizaciones.
Also on Wednesday night, social organizations, indigenous groups, gender and cultural movement, and other sectors of Colombian society demonstrated to denounce fraud in the national parliament following the collapse of the popular consultation. Calls spread through social networks and the sound of pots and pans activated peaceful demonstrations in various communities. In Bogotá, the capital city, people gathered in parks and in front of City Hall. In Medellín, popular assemblies were held and a national cacerolazo was organized simultaneously. The protest, which continued until early Wednesday morning, denounced fraud in counting Senate votes. Several parliamentarians claimed that the order was altered arbitrarily and that the agenda was altered and the voting process was disorganized. Meanwhile, in Peru, various organizations held a march to demand more security from the government of Dina Boluarte, whose premier was forced to resign because the Congress was preparing to dismiss him for his insufficient work to combat organized crime. More details with our colleague Ramiro Angulo.
Trabajadores, comerciantes y transportistas.
Workers, traders, and carriers mobilize in Peru to demand security and to question the power sharing that ended with the unexpected resignation of Premier Gustavo Adrianzen.
Renuncia del Premier Gustavo Adrianzen.
Sabemos bien que Dina Boluarte no está ahí.
We know very well that the president is not there by the approval of the citizens, by the popular vote. She is there by a decision of the right-wing and ultra-right parties that govern from the Congress. In Peru, there is no longer a balance of powers, so these parties put pressure on the president so that she will give them some ministries.
En el paro del sur se demanda gas.
The southern strike demands gas for the people, the elimination of mining projects such as Tia Maria and La Tapada, and the rejection of water privatization. There is an indignation that is also expressed in the streets from the very day that the president was sworn and the people took to the streets. She arrived with massive protests and the people have not stopped demonstrating. What I do believe is that this destabilizing potential of the streets is contained by the Congress and the political forces that are determined not to let go of power and maintain the situation, I believe, until 2026.
La indignación ciudadana crece debido a que en medio de esta
Citizen indignation is growing because in the midst of this crisis the president has asked Congress to be at the enthronement of Louis XIV and also seeks to double her own salary. It is not only the south, today the north, today Chimbote is also following the measure in the south of Peru. Several departments are coming out to protest, and the right to protest is a fundamental right that our political constitution recognizes, as well as the American Convention of Human Rights, and it must be highlighted as a right. Because precisely in our country this right has not been guaranteed, and on the contrary it has been contravened with the Constitution, with conventions, and we have had the result of this, for example in the protests of 2022-2023, 50 assassinations.
Para los analistas consultados,
For the analysts consulted, the new changes in the cabinet are the result of negotiations made with the people's backs turned. It is a dramatic situation for the country. One believes that it has already reached the bottom and it continues to reach the bottom. The resignation of the premier and the cabinet reshuffle show us that nothing is changing. On the contrary, things are going to continue getting worse. The levels of hired killings and insecurity are very high. The indignation and at the same time the questioning of the government's inaction is growing. According to experts, Peru has a government with no clear direction whose president only seeks to survive.
Desde Lima para teleSUR, Ramiro Angulo Maquiavelo.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Turkey, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has altered the scheduled agenda for negotiations with the Russian delegation. The scheduled meeting comes after Russian President Vladimir Putin proposed last week to resume direct talks between Moscow and Kiev without preconditions. The Russian delegation, headed by President Putin's assistant Vladimir Medinsky, is currently in Turkey for the first talks between Russia and Ukraine since the year 2022. In this context, upon his arrival in Ankara, the Ukrainian head of state called the meeting a farce and belittled the head of the Russian presidential team, complaining about the absence of higher-level representation, despite the Kremlin's repeated confirmation that President Vladimir Putin would not attend. The future of Russia-Ukraine negotiations in Istanbul is being discussed at a meeting between the Ukrainian president and Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The two presidents are having one-on-one and interdelegation meetings in the presidential complex in Ankara at the moment. Upon arriving at the city's airport, Zelensky announced that he would decide on the resuming of the scheduled negotiations after his encounter with Erdogan. Pressured by civil organizations and the media, the U.S. government finally acknowledged that 9 migrants have died in its custody. For weeks, humanitarian organizations and relatives of migrants imprisoned by Donald Trump's administration have been denouncing deaths in detention centers. The press obtained and disseminated testimonies such as that of a Haitian citizen who begged for medical assistance because of severe chest pains and was left to die. In view of the weight of this evidence, the Congress has summoned those responsible who finally acknowledged these deaths, although it is suspected that there are much more. Despite the denunciations of relatives and organizations, the acting director of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Todd Leon, said that it is now that the serious fact will be investigated.
Our total death in custody right now is up to 9. We do conduct a thorough investigation on all of those, between the Office of Professional Responsibility as well as the local jurisdiction as well.
And in this context, Congregational Democrats have also criticized the government's $1 million propaganda operation as inefficient and dangerous.
People so hastily and with so little care that you're defying court orders. Your department is wasting millions flying the secretary around the country for publicity stunts so that she can post photos on social media from operations that are still ongoing, putting actual agents at risk.
May 15th marks Nakba Day for Palestinians, a day to commemorate the mass dispossession and forced displacement during the creation of the Israeli state in 1948. Palestinians held marches in the occupied West Bank city of Ramallah to commemorate the 77th anniversary of the Nakba, or catastrophe, in which an estimated 750,000 Palestinians fled or were expelled from their lands after Israel declared itself an independent state in the territory. Palestinian flags and keys symbolize the lost homes and the permanent desire and struggle for their return. This year, the commemoration takes place amid the ongoing genocide in Gaza that killed over 50,000, and Israel continues to force displacements in all the enclave with its aid blockade and ongoing attacks. Meanwhile, Israeli warplanes bombed multiple residential areas in Khan Yunis and Gaza, killing at least 57 Palestinians and injuring dozens. Warplanes struck 8 homes in the southern Gaza town of Khan Yunis in one of the heaviest bombardments in recent weeks. Multiple airstrikes hit the towns of Husa and Avasan al-Kavira east of Khan Yunis, while artillery shelling and heavy firefighting was reported in the same areas. The escalation spread to the Al-Mawasi area west of Khan Yunis, where airstrikes targeted shelters for displaced people, killing at least 1 person. The relentless bombardment is aggravating an already dire humanitarian crisis, with Gaza's health system on the brink of collapse and thousands of families displaced from their homes. In this context, the medical officials said that at least 50 people, including 22 children, were killed in attacks around the northern Gaza neighborhood of Jabalia. Mohamed Sahad, the director of Jabalia's Al-Wada hospital, said that his staff had treated 52 wounded, including a 4-month-old baby with severe leg injuries. Airstrikes concentrated on the northern areas of Gaza, while the Israeli army has issued new evacuation orders for the neighborhood of Rimal in what appears to be an escalation of the genocide.
We were sleeping when the rubble and debris fell on us. Children and residents started screaming, and we were terrified and did not know where to go. They have been bombing Gaza for 19 months. What is there in Gaza? Innocent children are dying. There is no armed activity. Most of them are elderly people who are dying. About 8 infants were killed today.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.